Welcome to the Leadership Question of the Day podcast. I'm your host, Jono White. I'm the founder and principal consultant of Clarity. We are an Australian consultancy that works with leaders around the world, and our passion is to invest in people to become everything they're meant to be in order to fill the world with healthy organizations that people love to work for and customers line up to buy from. Let's jump straight into today's leadership question. How healthy are your relationships at work? Today's leadership question focuses in on relationships. And if you listen to our Leadership Conversations podcast, there's an episode with Joe Folkman where he talks about trust, and the research behind trust shows that there are 3 keys to trust. Now, the first one is consistency. If you want to build trust, which we all know, it's a word that anyone who's studied leadership in any way, shape, or form has heard that trust is key. So trust is about consistency, right? It's about modeling. It's about saying you're going to do something and then doing it. Well, Joe, from all the research they've done at Zinger Folkman, they found that yes, consistency is key, but it's not number 1, it's number 2. There's another thing, which is expertise. You have to be an expert at your job. It's fine that you don't know how to do everything, but people have to have a sense. If you want to have trust, there has to be that credibility that you know what you're doing in terms of your role as a leader. And so that's really important. But number 1 is relationships. It comes down to your relationships with the people at work. That's why this is so important. So how healthy are your relationships with the people at work? I want to give you 3 more sort of areas I want to zoom in on when it comes to relationships. The first one is, how often do you connect with the people you work with? Connection is so underrated. We often think so strategically as leaders, don't we? We think, okay, how can I invest in the vision and the values and make these strategic hires? And when it comes down to relationships, I just want to encourage you, take the strategy hat off for a second and just connect with some human beings. Connecting with people. How often do you connect? And for those who are very task orientated, it can be helpful for you to create a to-do list that has connection activities on there to build relationship with the people at work. In a COVID and post-COVID world, that often means working remotely. So it might be connecting over the phone, it might be connecting with a quick email, it might be connecting with a text message, and ultimately it's about connecting in person. And just being with someone for a few minutes is really powerful. And this leads us to the second question. How well do you know your people? There's a lot of work that's been done around people feeling known. And the one that comes to mind for me is Patrick Lencioni's work in his book around employee engagement, The Truth About Employee Engagement. And one of the 3 things that he talks about that disengages employees. If you want to have employees who hate coming to work, then one of the things to look for is anonymity. If people feel like they're anonymous in their job, that people don't truly know who they are, then that's going to reduce engagement. And so if you want to increase and invest in your relationships at work with the people at work, get to know them. Let's play a little game quickly, you and me, okay? I want you to think the people that you're leading, the people at work, I want you to think of one of them who's not someone that's on your team who's your best mate. Someone who's on your team who you haven't really known outside of work, okay? Have you got someone in mind? I want you to answer this question. Where were they born? Okay, if you're thinking of them, where were they born? And let me ask you this, how many siblings do they have? And let's throw one more in there. What was their first job? Okay, they might be 20 or they might be 60. Do you know what their first job was when they left school? I love this exercise because a lot of us go, yeah, I know the people I work with. But just asking those few questions, and I ask those questions because they're literally part of a set of questions called the personal histories, which is an exercise from Patrick Lencioni. Actually, if you Google a simple exercise to do with your team, Clarity, it should come up. It's a little exercise, and you just ask these questions and you go around. And it's so powerful because you're just creating a case for vulnerability, and you're just giving people a very easy step to be vulnerable with one another. And it's amazing what you learn. I remember working with a team recently where we learned that 2 different people in this team were actually twins, and everyone knew about one of them, but no one realized about this other person. They were newer to the team. And so it was just this really funny moment for this team where they were like, what are the chances where 2 of our team are part of sets of twins? Like, that's so interesting. And so you never know. It's so fascinating what you find out, but at a deeper level, you build relationships with the people you work with. Now, the third thing I want to say is, how well do you know the families of the people you work with? If we continue on from that game we just played, if you think about your team, pick someone else in your team. Whether it's John or Mary or Debbie, whoever it is, think of someone in your team, and I want to ask you this: what's their partner's name? If they have a partner, what's their partner's name? Do they have any kids? If they have a partner, what does their partner do? If they, whatever their family looks like, how do they spend time? Do they have any hobbies? Do they have a place that they normally go for holidays? Now, some of you will be able to answer this for one person very easily, and for others, you will be stumped. And when it comes to relationships, I just recorded a podcast today on the Leadership Conversations podcast, which is a quick plug, a great podcast where I interview amazing leaders from around the world. And Troy Setter is the CEO of CPC, Consolidated Pastoral Company, more than 300,000 cattle, 600 staff in Indonesia, 180 staff here in Australia. Incredible man, incredible leader. And one thing that he talked about was they mapped out the impact and who was actually being influenced by their presence in Indonesia. They have around 600 staff, but when they did the mapping with their people, they realized there were actually 12,000 families relying on them. 12,000 families. Why did they do that? They wanted to get a sense of, when they were making a decision on risk and on people and on business and strategy, who was being impacted by this. And I just thought that was such a brilliant concept from Troy, and I think all of us could do that. Think about who are the people that are represented by the people you lead. Who are the people represented, the partners, the kids, the extended family, the friends? Who's impacted by how you lead that person? Another story that comes to mind from the Leadership Conversations podcast is an episode that I did with Mike Marr. And Mike leads TPT Group in New Zealand as of right now. I think they have 12 different companies. They acquire companies. They're a really incredible group. And that podcast, he's an amazing leader as well. Really, really recommend that one. He talks about how whenever they acquire a company, the first thing they do is they shout all the staff and their families dinner. They take them out because they want to say to them, yes, we've acquired the company, but we know that what we've really acquired is this amazing group of people, this team that has done amazing things, and we want to invest in you. And I just thought that was genius level leadership, to actually take this group of people, invest in them, and say, we're going to put our money where our mouth is and take your families out to dinner because we want you and your families. We want your kids to know from day one this company cares about you and cares about them as a child of one of their employees. And so for you, how much do you know? Just start there. How much do you know about the people behind your people? And what might it look like to include them? This might be, some of us get really awkward about this. People like to really keep life and work separate. But honestly, at the end of the day, if you want to lead an organization that truly invests in people and cares about people, then start learning and caring about the people behind the people you're leading, and do anything you can to, if you have an employee who absolutely smashes a record, why don't you think about taking them out with their family, with your family for dinner? That sort of thing is so experiential. It's such an experience. It means you can sit with their partner and ask them about themselves. And you know what? We all have problems at work, and there's always challenges, but taking their family out with them and saying, how are you? And just not only for you putting a face to those people, but also putting a face to the boss at work and saying, we're just people at the end of the day, and I really value your husband, your wife, your dad, really value them and you as well for being part of our organization. So there are a few ideas, and as always, I really hope that that you'll walk away from this and think about your relationships. Because if you can build relationships, if you can build that relational capital and invest in your relationship with people, you're going to invest in trust. And trust is an incredible thing to build in your team and across your organization if you want to impact more people's lives and achieve great things as a team and as an organization. I hope today's leadership question has helped you in your leadership and put a stone in your shoe. That's what I love to say, is that my role, I believe, working with leaders is about putting a stone in your shoe. So something you were really comfortable with, now you're walking a little bit uncomfortably, going, is there a better way to do this? How do I handle this? And that's because no growth is comfortable. So I hope that's okay. I appreciate you taking the time. I don't take it lightly. And if you are just joining us, then make sure you check out our website, consultclarity.org, consultclarity.org. We have so much free content on there for you, including the 7 Questions on Leadership series. So more than 1,500 leaders around the world, different roles, different sectors, have filled out the 7 Questions on Leadership. In-depth answers on how they lead, what they've found most challenging, how they structure their time, what book or books have been most significant for them. There is so much gold on there. You could go and basically live in that part of our website for a few weeks, I think. So make sure you go and check that out. It's free. And hey, we would love to interview you for our 7 Questions on Leadership series. Your leadership, based on your context, your life, and your experience, I believe that you can bring something that other leaders can learn from. I truly do. And so it's completely free to get involved. It's a great way to give back if you're loving this content. And you can do that by going to consultclarity.org/7-questions-interest, or just Google consultclarity.org 7 questions interest, and then click on the page, fill out the form to express your interest, and we can get you going to fill out the 7 questions on leadership. We also have a free resource on our website. It's right at the top, consultclarity.org, on our homepage, and it's called the Leadership Survival Guide. It's a 57-page ebook with interviews from 10 world-class leaders, and it's right there for you to download. It's completely free, an awesome resource. It's very popular, so check that out. We also have a daily email, and I know that our more than 15,000 leaders who subscribe get a lot of value from that. We highlight the best content from our blogs, from our podcasts, from our books and books we're reading. It also gives you exclusive and limited access and early access to our masterclasses and workshops. So I really try to make it something as helpful and as valuable as possible. That's my commitment. And so go to consultclarity.org/subscribe if you're interested in all things leadership, and you can become part of that community. Now, my gift to you with everything we're doing, particularly with this podcast, the Leadership Question of the Day, is to work really hard to provide the best leadership content to invest in you and your leadership. Your gift to me would be this. If you're finding this helpful, if this helps you in your leadership, then there is something you can do that makes a massive difference, and that is to write a review or rate our content. Wherever you're listening or watching, rate our content, write a review, make sure you subscribe or follow. It might seem small to you to do that, but it adds up and it helps us to help more leaders become the best they can be. It also means a lot to me personally whenever I see you sharing our content, so thank you so much for that. If you do share it on social media, then look for me, John O. White, and try to tag me, and look for Clarity and tag us. And I promise we are always looking for content shared by our community. When people share our content, we're looking to engage with you. And there's also a chance that we may actually share what you write as a post with our followers. So if you do that, there's a chance you'll be shared as well. Last of all, you can check out my book called Step Up or Step Out: How to Deal with Difficult People Even If You Hate Conflict. I wrote this book because more than 50% of the leaders I coach, 50% of the sessions, where I coach leaders, this comes up again and again and again. And it's leaders saying, Jono, how do I deal with this difficult person? Or how do I deal with this person and I'm finding it so difficult? We're just on a different wavelength. And that's because difficult conversations are difficult. And I find this is one of the biggest challenges for leaders in the world today. And that's where Step Up or Step Out is a 3-step process to help you deal well with difficult people. I really believe it's a book that can help you in your leadership. So go and check that out. It's on Amazon, Step Up or Step Out, John O. White, if you just look that up, or go to store.consultclarity.org/book and you can get it there. Well, thank you so much for listening. We're going to be back with a new episode of the Leadership Question of the Day next time. I hope today has helped you take another step towards becoming everything you're meant to be. We'll see you next time.